G'day, welcome back to Chats with Garage. I've got another distraction from the Galaxy going on here. Bit of backstory. Every year in November for about the past 6 years, I think, me and my brother and dad and a bunch of mates have gone out on a small bike adventure ride. The last 4 years, I think, I've done it on my Honda CRM50. Now, when I say adventure ride, this is like 600 odd Ks over the weekend, as much gravel as we can find through some remote parts in New Zealand, and it's bloody good fun. But this year I want to change it up a bit, and not so keen to ride the CRM50. I've got my little old Honda ST90 that I quite like to ride that, but in a modified version. So I've got this hunk of junk that I bought off the Facebook buy and sell a few months ago. It was a high school tech project. I think they bought a kit set and then the students welded the frame together. It's a real piece of shit, to be honest. The frame's pretty junk. The kids have done their best, but the welding's not flash. It's got a solid foot peg bar across there. You can see all the axle bolts are homemade. She's pretty rough and ready. But it's got a Chinese 125 electric start, but the electric start is missing, so it's got a gaping hole in the bottom of it. What I really bought it for is this pretty cool anodized upside down fork disc brake front end. So I'm going to strip this piece of crap down and play around with these forks and see if I can fit them to a spare ST90 frame that I've got. And this ride is in maybe like 6 weeks time, so a bit of work to do, because at the moment that's just a bare frame. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Probably finish it the night before the ride and then decide to ride something reliable like my CRM. But we'll see how we go. Okay, so the basis of this build is this frame, pretty much. I have got a really mint, very original, nice red ST90, original engine, everything about it's OG, and it's a very cool little bike. But 3 days of gravel bashing on it, it'll be dead. There'll be nothing left of the thing. It's just not up to that kind of torture. So I've had this frame lying around for ages, and I thought I had quite a lot of parts to go on it, but on hunting, really all I've got is the frame. So what I'm planning to build is this frame with those upside down forks that I showed you before, which will give me a nice disc brake front wheel. I could have sworn that I had a swing arm for this somewhere, because I do have a rear wheel that I can use. So my plan was to use the green frame, the upside down forks and front wheel, an original swing arm and rear wheel, and a Lifan engine. But I couldn't find the swing arm, still can't find the swing arm. I've looked high and low for that. So that plan's out. But what I did find was a relic from my childhood. This thing, famously known as the Zesty Bandito. So the Zesty Bandito started life as like a 1992, I think, small wheel KX80 motocross bike. This was back when I was maybe like 10 years old and wanted to get into trail bike riding with my dad. Trail bike riding around back block Taranaki is pretty steep, and a small wheel KX80 is just not going to cut it. As far as torque goes, it's going to be very challenging on the hilly sections. And Dad knew this because he'd done a lot of trail bike riding, but I was pretty keen. So he decided that he needed to build me a bike that had some torque. So we chopped up the poor old KX80, chucked that engine on a shelf, and Dad shoehorned in here a XR200 motor from an old Honda that he had lying around. And that did me for a good few years. It never quite ran right. The packaging, there wasn't really room for the carburetor, so there was a big spacer between the barrel and the carb. And so when you first came on the throttle, it always had a big lag, which made it a bit hard to ride. But I got in a few trail rides on it before I was tall enough to upgrade to I think I went to a WR200 Yamaha from that. But this thing hung around and got thrashed and thrashed and thrashed for many, many years, and then stuck in the back of the barn to deteriorate. So I went and dug it out because it's got a swing arm and a back wheel with disc brakes, and I've put the tape measure over it, and I think it'll actually just about bolt straight onto my frame. There's a bit more involved into it than that, but we'll get to that later. For now, this thing is gonna have its last breath and get stripped down for parts. See you later, Zesty Bandito. You've done us proud. How cool is that? I am extremely chuffed with how well this is coming together. The forks aren't going to take a lot of effort to fit. I've got a tapered headset bearing set on the way from M-Bike, and then we'll have to machine some top hat bushings and get a bolt to tie it all together, and that'll be that done. That's easy enough. I've got some YSS shocks to go on the back here. They're going to look awesome and should make it handle nice. The swing arm, absolutely unbelievable, is a bolt up fit with the need for maybe a 4mm spacer. Who would have thought? But I am going to chop it up. It's too long. I don't like the drag bike look, and I'd rather it kept the kind of proportions of the original ST90. So I'll probably chop a big section out of the front of this, bring the wheel back into where it's supposed to be, and that'll make it into a real wheelie machine as well, which will be pretty cool. I'm stoked. Original size 14-inch wheels front and back, so it'll keep that proportions. Disc brakes front and back. Cool gold upside down forks, proper shocks, aluminium swing arm. This thing is going to rock and roll. So with the Galaxy project on the go, this was not supposed to be too much of a distraction. The whole idea was I'll only work on this at times when I can't be working on the Galaxy, so that I can keep the focus going on that. But this is looking so cool that I think I'm actually going to have to put some real effort into making sure I get it finished for this ride, because how can I not want to ride this now? I need to make it into a thing. It's got to happen. Okay, it's been a little while, but I thought I'd do an update on the ST90 project. I have been trying to concentrate on working on the Galaxy, because that's definitely my priority, and kind of set myself a rule that I can only work on this at times that I can't work on the Galaxy for whatever reason. So the progress from me has been a little bit slow on this, but that's cool. I dropped it off with my dad the other day, and he made up a whole new wiring loom for it. Regulator, indicator module, it's wiring's there for the key, the headlight, the controls. He's done a great job of all that. So that's pretty cool. The other thing we've done is knocked out the original cup and cone type headset bearings and pressed in some races for some proper taper roller bearings to go in there, and somewhere here. So also got Dad to machine up a couple of pieces. These are the adapters to make the taper roller bearings fit in the headsets of the or adapt to the headsets of the Fit Bike front end. So that'll all bolt up. I'll get a new 12mm bolt that'll go through and pull it all together, and that'll be golden. That'll be the front end sorted. Got a plan for the swing arm, but I just need some time. Putting that one down the priority list at the moment. My dad's into his ST90s as well, and a little while ago he came up with some profile cut patterns for a really nice set of engine mounts for putting a Lifan 125 into your ST90 frame. They take a bit of work, but they come out really nice. They tuck it in nice and tight, keep it away from the front wheel, and they're really tidy and well put together. But initially this is getting a YX140 in it, and the mounts are a little bit different, so Dad's done some more great work on scalloping these out and rejigging them a bit to fit the YX140, and then the Lifan will just bolt straight in after that. So I've got to TIG weld these together, and then after that I'm able to mount the engine in it. Once I've put the taper roller bearings together, I can put the forks together, and then it'll be mocked up on the bench here, waiting for me to cut and shut the swinger. Okay, fast forward a couple of weeks since I last pushed record on the old camera here, but I have been chipping away at this quite a lot. A week ago we had our third child was born, so I've not been able to escape very often to go and work on the Galaxy up at Dad's place, which has meant that this has been getting most of my attention lately. I've also, in 2 weeks time, have got the big ride. So if I'm going to take this, there is still a lot of work to do on it, but we're getting there. Since I last recorded, I've assembled the whole front end with the tapered roller bearings. That'll come together really easily, really well. I've mounted up a front kit mudguard on here, got some headlight mounts and a Honda Chally headlight bucket. I have finished welding up the engine mounts that I was talking about previously, mounted the YX140 engine, put on the air filter. Now the ride that we're doing is very long distance. We're talking a few hundred k's per day. These things have a 2 litre petrol tank, and with a 140cc motor in a 2 litre petrol tank, I will be stopping to wait for the support vehicle with fuel every 20 minutes probably. So been looking for ways to mount more fuel on it. Dad's running one of these, and he has built a really nice tank that fits in the carry rack on the back. It's a nice aluminium auxiliary tank with a cap on it, and it all fits within the bounds of the original ST rack. I don't want to run a rack on mine. I prefer a bit more of a sleek look, so I've come up with a new idea. On the original ST90, the air filter is that way up, bolts on the side here, has this cover on it like that. But with the aftermarket motor, I'll be running a proper foam uni filter. So I've got a spare ST90 air filter that will look nice and factory on the side if it was there. So what I've done, chucking away the filter part, keeping the cap, and you'll see I have, through the bolt holes on it, welded in some crush tubes, and I've made up a new base and the base will get welded all the way around to this later this afternoon. And then I've got a nice factory looking ST90 air cleaner fuel tank that'll mount just up under here. A couple more hoses and stuff to link it to the original. Nearly dropped it, don't want to dent it. And that, I haven't measured it yet, but I reckon it's probably another good litre or so, so it's 50% more fuel if it's only a litre, which would be great. What else have I been doing? Changed the handlebars to some that were a bit higher. Once I got sat on there, it was like a bit weird, so it's a bit nicer riding position now. I've mounted a mirror, starting to get some controls in place. Pinched the seat off my other ST90 just for the time being. Budget's pretty tight at the moment, so I'll pinch that off the other bike and then put it back later on once I can get a new seat for this. And the swing arm, I've put a lot of effort into getting the swing arm right, and that's away getting welded at the moment. 3D printed test parts for shock mounts. 3D printed the front half of the swing arm, so that while the swing arm's away I could have that on there and be working around it for mounting the brakes on the other side. Dad's been machining up heaps of little bosses, spacers and things for me. This one's going to get welded onto the side of the frame for mounting the disc brake master cylinder. I've got a nice plan for the exhaust, which is going to be really cool and factory looking as well. Just need a bit more time. Check this out, this is something that I'm quite proud of that I'm working on at the moment. So this is, I think it's a Honda Chelly, the triangle shaped headlight bucket. It's actually a nice proper metal one, not a plastic one. So I've drawn up and 3D printed this dash insert to go in it. I've got some LEDs there for neutral indicators, and what was the other one? High beam. And ultimately I'll put a GPS speedo in there, but I haven't got the GPS speedo at the moment, so I need a gap filler. So I've printed out a nice little insert that I'll silicon in there for the time being, and that's pretty cool. I'm real proud of that. It's come together quite nicely. Still coming up with a plan for indicators. Those ones are a bit small, probably won't use those. I might use them on the rear. Yeah, it is getting there. Here is my modified KX80 swing arm. We've taken this much out of here, so that's all the space where the monolink stuff was. What do they call it on this? Unilink, I think. And so it's shortened right up now to be a twin shocker. We've added on twin shock mounts. Been real careful about the placement of that one and the shape of it, so that our brake caliper could slide on there. That's as far forward as it goes, and it's got nice clearance to our bracket. Perfect. Very happy with that. Now my good friend Richard has welded this up for me. He's just stitched the front so that I can test it and make sure it's all square and level, and he's put enough strength in it, he said, so that I can put the wheel on and bounce up and down on it. So don't know if I'll go too hardcore, but we'll put it on, see what it looks like, and make sure it's all true. But first, the hole for the swing arm on the ST90 is 10mm and the bolt on this is 12. So I have been up, I bought myself a new 12mm drill bit because I'm a serial drill bit killer, and I'll kill this drill bit boring that out. Now I'm fully expecting that I'm going to smash the corners off of this being that I'm taking such a small bite out of that, so I bought a reasonably cheap drill bit. Didn't want to overcommit. Having no luck there. Can't get the chuck on the drill tight enough. The bit slipped in the chuck and then grabbed and bit the edges off the drill bit. And now I won't drill. Told ya, serial killer of drill bits. Workaround. Since I had such great success initially drilling it with the parsnip, I just dug around in my toolbox until I found one that only went to 12mm. Perfect. Almost there. Okie dokie. I've finished drilling out the swing arm mount pivot bolt hole there and installed my swing arm. As you can see here, it's only tacked together at this stage, which is good. Because Richard wanted me to check that the wheel was straight, and the wheel is not straight. So we've got some figuring out to do here. So he's measured the eye centres offset from the top of the swing arm and tacked them in place there, but they visually looked different. So he's asked me to check it before he fully welded it, and I'm glad he did, because yeah, like I say, we've got some figuring out to do. The wheel is visually cranked over a wee bit. So what I've done is taken off the seat and the mudguard and all the stuff that would visually detract where it could be bent. I've got my bike, was straight up and down. Oh, it's pretty good, yep, straight up and down. And then put my level on something that should be straight, like the brake disc. And it is no longer straight. So I'd say it's like 1/2 millimeter out over here, and it's a couple of millimeters out here, and visually pissed. So like I say, some figuring out to do, but how cool is it looking? Pretty happy with that. Alright, bit of mucking around on the lathe, and I've made up all the fittings I need for welding to the fuel tanks, and varying sizes for normal 1/4 inch fuel tube and some in 5/16 to hopefully let the tanks equalise reasonably quickly. I don't know if it's going to be fast enough, but we'll see. We will see. It's a reasonably big hole. Hopefully it won't take too long when I'm standing there filling her up at the Bowser. Alright, some things have been happening here today. Done a bit more work on the little petrol tank here. Finished welding it all up. She's all closed unit now. Polished off the welds where I felt it needed it. And that's going to mount on there. I'm going to have to make up a mounting bracket for that to get it where I want. And put the fittings that I've machined up into it and connect it to the original tank. The other thing I've been plodding away at is the exhaust. I've got it all tacked up. I'm about to weld that out. Getting the swing arm square has been a real challenge. When it first got tacked up, it came back, and I think I showed you the wheel was on a bit of a lean. So I've done heaps of measuring to figure out what's what. We've tacked it up again, adjusted it, borrowed a tool. This guy, which I have used up on here. Zeroed it to the frame and then used the sprocket as my datum, sort of the best point I've got. and it's within half a degree, so I'm calling that good enough for as much as it'll twist again when it gets fully welded. I think that'll have to do. Mounted a tail light, mounted the number plate. That's not the number plate that it'll be, it's just one I had lying around for fitment. Getting there, still a huge amount to do. And only a week left before the ride. Alright. There's our exhaust pipe all welded out. Not the flashiest job. I don't get a lot of practice on stainless, so it is what it is. If I'm not happy with it, I'll cover it up with exhaust wrap, but I'm pretty happy with it. It'll do for now. Choice. One more job ticked off. Alright, as you can see, I can't really work on the motorbike at the moment. Cute as she is, she's hampering progress, but that's okay. I'll let her have it. Anyway, current challenge, since I can't work on things, I'll take the opportunity to show you. Trying to mount the brake. Trying to mount the brake master cylinder for the rear. So I've made up these standoff bosses that I was going to weld onto the frame. Thinking they're going to go somewhere up there. Just clear the swing arm bolt, and then I'll have to remake the pivot with the original ST90 brake lever. That's my plan anyway. It's not ideal, but I am hoping I can make it work. Well, unfortunately, I think I'm going to concede defeat on this one. Today is Monday. I'm back to work tomorrow. The ride heads off on Friday, and there is still a huge amount to do on this bike. It's disappointing because it is so close, but it's also so far. Still got to make an offset front sprocket. Got to get a new rear sprocket. Needs a new chain. The brakes still need hooking up. Building, rebuilding. Throttle cable I've got's too long. The clutch cable I've got's too short. And I've still got to finish my fuel tank setup, so it's just too much to do. So I'm gonna prep my CRM 50, and we'll take that on the ride again, because that is always good fun. So it's disappointing not to be riding the new rig, but the CRM will get the job done, and then I'll just have to finish this off, and then I'll have an excuse to go for another ride.